But it's Friday. And so instead of calling it a Workflow Wednesday, I thought I'd call this Free Thought Friday. I know, give me something, right? It's been a week. I hope yours went well. Mine's been very, very busy. I've met with a number of different customers at ServiceNow, and one of the things that has come up over and over, I think we've all seen it, you can't go anywhere with someone talking about Gen AI. And so I want to talk about that. But before, I want to back up a little bit, because one of the things that I encounter so many times with our customers is, where is our focus? And particularly when we think about the term value, how are we driving value? If we think about that with how we keep our lights on, right? I keep my ring lights on. What keeps the ring lights on in your business? What keeps the business? What rings your cash register? What rings the bell? Each of our businesses exist for a reason. There's an unmet need. There are customers willing and clients are willing to pay for that. And as you deliver that product or services, that's what people come to your business for. And you keep the lights on that way. That's what the business exists for, to meet those needs. Often inside that, we need different departments. There's so many. And as we work in ServiceNow, a lot of that is focused on IT. But as we think about ServiceNow, so many times I step back where I see very successful customers really transforming the world of work. Where is it on this side of my head? Right there, right? The world of work works better with ServiceNow. Many of them have a focus on what is the underlying business that we're involved in. Where are their workflows that we can optimize and make the world of work better for people by figuring out where are those flows, where are those swivel chairs or pivot points, as I had one customer use today, where we're passing from either one department to another, one system to another, or I've got to log into a system, do something here, I have to log into a system and do something there. That so many of those workflows span different ways, span different technologies and different areas, that inside of IT, when we start talking about all of those different products and services and technologies that run our businesses, many times we can kind of stuck, lost a little bit in focusing on just the technologies, the work that is IT. And often we can get focused on that instead of, how do we keep the lights on? And so my challenge for you as you go into this weekend, your free thought of the week is, how can you, if you're working in IT and you're part of that, how can you shift your focus and say, what is the business that we're part of? What rings the cash register? What rings the bell? And where are their workflows or technologies, whether it's ServiceNow or anything else, how can you make it different? Where IT departments are showing up as that market differentiator, showing up at ways to really innovate and drive new custom and different services to their customers, those IT departments become a crucial and critical part of that business. They become an enabler for the business. And so I challenge you to change, think about that. And if you can, change your thinking, that it's all about the business. That's why we exist. There's not different orgs that have different checkbooks. It's one org that pays wherever we work, right? And so that's your free thought Friday for one. The other is Gen AI. So many people talk about generative AI, and as I step back, there's some people that say it's the next big wave of innovation. And being an electrical engineer, I think there's so many massive innovations that we've seen in just our lifetime. For me, it goes back to the transistor, right? That as an electrical engineer, having a silicone chip transistor is such a huge change from tubes. And you look at all of the innovations and the drive to put more transistors on a chip and shrink that space and speed up the speed of which those transistors can function. It's mind-blowing to consider the scope and the scale of the innovation that came out of that. I think after that, it's a race in my mind between that next wave of innovation. Was it truly moving into a digital UI, a user experience, instead of the text, right? Whether it's a Linux, Unix-based main system where you're working with a text interface, or whether it was DOS where you're booting to text. When the windowed interfaces started showing up, that really transformed the way we could interact with computers. You think of all the innovations that have come from that, of visual engineering, visual computing. shortly around the same time too is really the explosion of the internet, of having just some geeks on the side using things like Gopher or links or other things that are chasing around obscure bits of information. Yeah, these gray hairs are real. I remember that. I remember Mosaic. Do you guys remember NCSA Mosaic as a browser? Goes way back. Those innovations of driving internet and driving all the connectivity that often we take for granted was a mind-blowing transformation. I think the next one that comes after that is the iPhone, right? That there's so much power that shows up in our pockets, in our computers, in our phones that we drag with us that is hard to fathom. And it's changed the way we work. It's changed the way we live in and out, that it's hard to believe what life would be like without a phone. Those innovations continue to happen, and they've shaped so much of our lives. And often they come up and they're just little blips of innovation, little blips of change. As AI has been around and machine learning has been around, it's been those blips. It's like, oh, there's something there. But as generative AI has hit the scene, many believe that that is going to make these other waves of innovation that I've talked about kind of pale in comparison. The generative AI truly transforms the way we can interact with systems, the way we can really take ideas out of our gray matter and turn it into something actionable. The speed at which we can innovate is accelerating at a pace that I don't know that we even grasp yet. And so when we think of GenAI, it is truly a wave of innovation that's here, that's coming. And as people talk about ServiceNow and AI, and they look at their business that they're in and say, I need some GenAI, you have lots of options. There are so many different platforms. I've tried to look at many and I've lost count. And I've got a peer that has really leaned in to try to look at how we can use GenAI, and he uses even more. And it becomes, well, inside of your organization, inside of your business, where do you have that enterprise core data that you want to use, where there are systems of work, where there are systems of action that you want to interrelate that information, and you want a large language model that can be applied to that information and generate information, whether that's code or whether it's a response or whether it's something else, to make your staff much more efficient. And I think that's truly where ServiceNow stands out. If I think about it like this, and let me just switch a little bit. If I look at where does AI really fit, I think for us it's putting that to work for people. At ServiceNow, use of AI is not new. We've been around it for a while. And so let me just talk a little bit about how we at ServiceNow put AI to work for people. The idea is that if you look at all the different changes that your orgs are facing, as we start looking at ways to build AI and start looking at ways we can do that, really the key is, how do we accelerate the pace of change in your organization? Help you transform your business in months, not years. And we've been able to see that. Where that really comes from is so many times when people look at their org and they look at the process that their staff have to go through, it's jumping from these different boxes. They're isolated, they're siloed. You might talk with one group that leads you to another. You've got to chase down the hall, you've got to find emails, SharePoint list, other technologies. You got to track things around from one system to another, and it's near impossible to do it quickly. What we've found is there's another way to do it. We transform that automation with one AI-powered experience layer. As you come into ServiceNow, that's that interaction layer that you can say, I need some help with this. You could talk with our AI agents to guide that as one way to start, for example. And as the workflow leads around, we have all of that data we can apply our large language model to help make that flow of work flow much more quickly. As we look at that on side of our platform, it's really the outcome that comes in 4 different ways. We enable smarter self-service. So as I talked about with phones, one of the transformations with our phones is they're so often when we don't know something, you see people everywhere. It's like heads down, let's type on the phone and get that answer. Inside your org, if you're using ServiceNow, you come into our Now mobile experience, or you come into the platform for your desktop, and you can ask for some help through self-service. And using our AI capabilities, it can respond in natural language, it can understand, and it can grow with your knowledge base and grow with others to provide smarter, faster, quicker results to really help your staff answer their own questions. That speeds them back to work, and it also alleviates the need for extended help desk and support desk. Reduces manual agent work. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but one of the things that we see is there's a lot of times where there's a history with information, and our staff have to go back and try and dig through it and learn it. With ServiceNow's GenAI capabilities, we can go back and summarize a vast amount of information. Think of a ticket history and related records and related changes and say, I've got a major incident. What happened? Generative AI can traverse that large language model in a very secure manner because it's on our platform, in our data centers. And it can provide that summarization without going through that manual work to generate a summary, generate an email, generate a response. And it eliminates a lot of that manual work that the agents used to have to do, freeing up to focus on the most valuable work of driving the flow of work through your organization. With developers, we've taken that into our own use to look at how do we take generative AI in ways that we can automate workflows and really take text to code. Say, I'd like to have a script that does this. Can you create a workflow for me that does this? And our generative AI capabilities will create that. We also have process improvement capabilities where we're using AI capabilities to look at your process and do mining and find ways to improve it. The results are there. Let me get rid of my camera for just a little bit so you can see that third number. We're seeing, as outcomes, we're seeing 20% of requests are deflected through self-service. 66% reduction in mean time to resolution with intelligent incident and case routing. Again, using the information that comes in on that record to be able to route it properly. Also, 37% faster agents to get up to speed on a case, because all that information can be summarized so quickly. It's been on our platform and it's not new, because that's all built on our platform. All the code, all the time on our platform. We're continuously innovating on it, and it's on our own architecture. That's why it's different. The example that I give is, we've all been there. Something happens, you hit something and your car gets damaged, and the pain that's ahead. Not only are you gonna have to figure out how to get around, but you have to go through the process of an insurance claim. Normally, that's a very painful process. If we tried to diagram that out, it might look like this. You're not gonna be able to read it on here, but think of all the steps. From calling your agent to talking and documenting all of that, figuring out which policy you have and what coverage you have, and it gets routed, and you try to find an adjuster to come and look, and someone else is going to look at it to figure out if they can fix it. You got to get different people to look at and estimate what the repairs are going to be, and that process is full of those pivots and swivel chairs. Now, if we took ServiceNow and modeled this and say we want to take our natural learning capabilities, our AI capabilities, and apply this to this process, what could we do differently? We said, what if we started off and said, well, what if I could just send an email? Yes, portals and mobile apps are very easy to use too, but let's say we just had an email and I want to send you a picture and I want to attach the police report so you have evidence of it, and I send that in and I send it off. That gets queued up. Our process can read that. Using some of our document intelligence capabilities, we can read that police report and extract the key elements from it and put that right into the system. So in the past, what would have been many manual steps, our systems are doing with much higher reliability. Those fields and data elements show up inside a ServiceNow for us to be able to rinse and repeat and reuse. Because we can identify who you are, we can understand exactly what policy you have, and you understand what coverage you have, we can understand how best to route it and provide the fastest response back. So you think about it like this, we're already using those integrations, And that's where ServiceNow fits so well, is we can work with those systems of record that you have, reaching out to pull in that data that needs to be actionable to route work and tie it in so we can automatically create those and notify your user of the progress. Well, imagine that is you send the email back. You thought this was like the insurance claims of past, where it's like, man, I'm going to have to call them for a week, chase them down, see if I can get someone out here. And here's a response like that saying, we've got it. We understand who to route this through. We're going to help you through the next process. That's one of the many ways that ServiceNow's AI capabilities can do it. Another is looking at how do we take Now Assist, our word for how we're applying AI to it, in virtual agent and apply that to just a conversational language. Inside of a support, we can connect to a live agent, and as you type it, it's looking at creating a claim, it's looking at setting it up, it's taking that same information except through a conversational interface with chat. All of that data is then accessible from inside of delivery. So if you're looking at dispatching, different people to follow through with those claims, you can see where the work is at. You can see who's doing what to be able to understand who has flexibility to be there and go and do it. The end result is getting very quickly to the point where the car is repaired and you get to sit down and they hand you the keys back for you to go back and get back on the road. Easing that process, minimizing the swivel chairs, minimizing the number of phone calls you had to make to try to chase down the entire process. That's truly where ServiceNow fits. And what we're seeing is customers, as they embrace our platform, think about the business problems that they're solving and how can we apply AI to it. We've had customers drive many different results. Seamless customer experience, reducing call volume, driving automation hours, unlocking productivity, creating resilient operations, really improving cycle time in procurement to make that much more efficient, driving innovation for faster, right? Out of all the different customers we talk to, one of the biggest concerns is the request for improving workflows, the bandwidth, the backlog of things keeps growing. I need to find ways to respond to that faster and accelerate the innovation. We're seeing that happen with our Now Assist and AI capabilities. Cyber threats aren't going to go away, and that's another area we found is where we apply that to really understanding your cyber attack surface, as well as watching it and looking for ways to really increase reliability in those different areas and respond quickly. Driving down our delays from identifying and responding to those cyber threats is another area where we're seeing massive results from AI. We're here. And at ServiceNow, one of the ways that we see customers and let us innovate together to let we really see the power of AI is coming to our Santa Clara office, where we have executive briefing centers, to have a workshop, meet with our experts, sit down together, and let's innovate. Help us understand your business and which workflows have the most swivel chairs. Is that in your supply chain? Is that in your procurement? Is it in the source to pay of how you actually get things in? Or is it how do you serve your customers in ways that you're really driving that customer interaction so they're retained and they're working with you longer? Let's meet with those experts and discuss how we can help it with you. And so with that, let me turn off my desktop and the minicam, because you don't want two of me. So I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you enjoyed this Free Thought Friday. Again, I had planned to do this on Wednesday, but weeks happen. And I didn't want to go through the whole week without getting to it. So this is my fail back. I hope you liked it. If there's comments, by all means, reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn. This shows up on YouTube as well. You can find past videos and other things. If you got questions where ServiceNow might be able to help and you want me to address it right now on Now with Troy, I'd love to hear from you. What things are hitting you right now in the business world that you think right now on the ServiceNow platform, you think we might be able to address it? Let me know. I'll take you on. Let me hear your topics. And with that, I hope you have a great weekend ahead. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.